Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Happier Active. My name's Ellie, I'm the host, and this week I spoke to Victoria Artz, who runs Common Senses. I absolutely loved this conversation. We talked a lot about using scent and how you can use that in various different ways, and it's definitely something I talk about this in the episode, but it's definitely something that I've thought about in a negative way more than in a positive way. And so that's why I really enjoyed learning about how you can use scent in a more positive way. And I guess what I mean by that is, if something in my house smells bad or I smell something bad, I find it really distracting. So I guess I know that scent, on some kind of level, I understand and know that scent can like affect my mood or how I'm operating. But I guess I've never really thought about how I could then harness that in a positive way to change how I feel in a more positive way. So I got a lot out of this conversation, and I hope you do too, because I think it's like a really primal thing, scent and smell and our kind of environment. And as ever, if you have any feedback, thoughts, topics you would like to have covered, I love to hear about it. So get in touch. And other than that, I hope you enjoy the episode. There are many ways to find your path to better health and happiness, and what works is highly individualized. My philosophy is that most people are more likely to find that when they're active participants in their own journey. So, this is a space to start exploring some of the rich and varied areas in which people practice, so you can start thinking about what resonates with you and discover new or different practices to start or deepen your own health journey. And today I have Victoria Artz, who runs Common Senses, and welcome. Why don't you tell us a bit about what you do?
Thanks so much, Ellie, for having me. So I'm an all-natural perfumer. I also call myself a sensory alchemist, and I'm also a coach. And I work with the five senses, especially scent, as a pathway to come back to our bodies, to presence, to deep emotion. And I use scent to anchor people to reconnect with themselves, whether that's returning to a memory, a feeling, or your inner truth, your inner essence. Um, my work is about awakening aliveness through the senses.
Oh, I love that. And actually, you're one of the first people that I've like reached out to because we were speaking at the same conference. And so I was looking at other speakers, and this is exactly the kind of what you do is kind of exactly why I wanted to start this podcast, because it's quite unusual. But as soon as I started looking at your Instagram and reading it, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense as like a amazing way in, especially for the kind of people who like feel things a lot but don't necessarily have the like language to talk about it. So it's like an amazing way in.
Yeah, and into healing because for me, my journey did start as a healing journey. Even though scent is for
Mhm.
pleasure and it's fun, and sometimes we just like to smell good, and that's totally what we use scent for. But there is so many other um, things that scent can do for us and the power that scent
Mhm.
has. So for me, I had a health scare. This was about 10 years ago, and it really woke me up and it
Mhm.
caused me to go inward and explore like, wait, who am I? What am I doing? Because I feel like I was running around with my head cut off, just like going through the motions in a job that I completely disliked, but just felt like, oh, I'm just supposed to do this. And um, I was like partying a lot. I was just like not finding time to take care of myself. So going
Mhm.
inward led me to this journey of discovering scent as a pathway to healing, which I didn't realize that I was actually healing myself when I found scent. It was when I took a scent class with Mandy Aftel here in Berkeley, California. She's an all natural perfumer. That's when I
Mhm.
realized I was like, oh, I have found my art. I have found my my passion. Like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Um, and it brought me to presence. Like, I've learned for the first time, I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, this is what it feels like when time can stand still. This is what it feels like when you could just, like, literally smell the roses, smell the jasmine,
Mhm.
be present with what you're doing." Um, and I didn't realize, but I was healing myself through that because I was slowing down and I was noticing things and I was opening up my sensory awareness, which then led me to, like, open up my intuition. And it was like it's been a whole journey ever since, and it blows my mind how powerful scent is if we allow it into our lives and explore it and play with it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I was just saying to you before we started, and then when you were talking, I was thinking about it as well of how I have quite a strong sense of smell, and I've always thought of that as like a negative, or I used to think of it as like a negative thing because normally you notice that or it gets triggered because of a bad smell, and it was only quite recently I was like, oh, I can make that like a good thing by using like a diffuser to make the room, like when I want to be calm using certain smells, or when I want to like wake up. And yeah, it took me a long time to get to that realization that you can use that to make your environment different.
Yeah, totally. And you could also use it to program your brain. Like, if you put on a certain scent in a diffuser and you create this ritual for you to feel calm in that moment, or to feel
Mhm.
more creative or energized, or whatever you want to use it for. Our brain synapses respond so quickly to scent, and we remember the feeling. And so it's a
Yeah.
really great way to program your brain and subconscious.
Yeah, and I think we all know it's like that thing of you sometimes smell something and you are like transported back to like high school or like a hospital or like a moment. And so we all know that on like a primal level, but I think often we don't engage with it day to day.
Yeah, yeah, it has, like, transporting abilities, like being able to time travel, bringing you into the moment, bringing you into a memory, into a time in your life, into a person. Like, you could remember a person sometimes by smelling something, and, like, you almost feel like that person's right there just because of the power of scent.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever I smell Chanel number 5, it makes me think of my grandma. She was one of those classic old ladies who used to wear loads of it. And I
Oh
guess
my god.
it's less common for people to wear that now, so you don't get it. It used to be like all the time, whereas now, I guess less people. It's not like such a common sense. So every now and again, I'll suddenly be like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, I know, that is so fun. I love that, like, that scent can do that and transport you, and Chanel number 5 is, like, one of my favorites. It kind of was what led me to wanna become a perfumer, of just like I'm just like, "What's in it? I just wanna know, how is perfume made? What's in it? How do people
Yeah,
make perfume?" And that curiosity kinda led me on this journey, like, 20 years later.
yeah. And one of the things I really liked when I was looking at your Instagram and your website is how much it's like a fully sensory experience, not just like, oh, I can make you like a signature scent. We'll talk for 5 minutes. Da, da, da. It's like a really whole thing. I'd love to hear a bit about that.
Yeah, so I take people on a whole journey. I'm all about the journey, not the destination. So what I
Yeah.
do is I work with people, bring them into a guided meditation. So in many ways, that helps, like, tap into all of their five senses. From the guided journey, we pull sensory elements that came up, and we use that to either invoke an emotion. Uh, Provoke behavior change, if that's what people want to use scent for, or to create their signature essence, their signature scent. And so we pull
Hmm.
all that information, and then I have people smell different things and give me their thoughts. And I love to see how people respond to certain smells. Some smells might be totally off putting. Like, someone could smell patchouli and be like, this smells like my parents' basement. And some
Yeah.
people could smell it and be like, "This grounds me. This makes me feel so warm and fuzzy." So, I love that. I love that experience. I love,
Yeah.
hearing what people say about it and how subjective it is. And then from that
Mhm.
conversation, I start kind of crafting a formula, and from that formula, I make it right there, and it becomes almost like a an anchor or a portal, so that the person can come back to that feeling, to that behavior, to that person, that main character that they want to be. I also am very into how actors use scent or a custom scent to get into character. So, in the same
Mhm.
way, I create scents for people to get into their main character of their life, of their own story, um, by using scent as a tool to remind them, you know, uh, to act a certain way or not act a certain way. And it is very, very powerful.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And it is interesting how subjective it is, I guess, because of experiences you've had and you don't necessarily realize that you're like, it's probably to do with that transporting thing where if some, like, if you had like maybe a teacher that you didn't like at school that wore a certain scent and then you've kind of, so you have a negative memory, but you wouldn't necessarily know that that's what's happened, but it kind of, you know what I mean? You get these associations.
Yeah, and it's powerful because it's like it's memories that from so long ago that you didn't even
Yeah.
know you had stored in your body, in your memory, and scent brings them up. And it's a great healing tool also for that. Um,
Yeah.
like to bring up trauma. I mean, not that you want to, but that's just a whole other way of how scent can help with healing a lot of things that are still stored in us that we don't even know that is still stored in us. And also, scent is used with Alzheimer's patients to help them remember things, and to like activate their
Mm.
brain to remember. Alzheimer's patients or people in general can remember a place a lot faster, or even a time frame through what it smelled like or
Yeah.
what that smell reminded them, better than like through um, talking about it or seeing it even.
Yeah, I can see that because it's like a sensory memory. You're not trying to like remember details or like it's like an immersive experience, I guess.
Yeah, and it like bypasses logic and language and goes straight to the
Hmm.
limbic system. Because when we interject language, we overthink. But when we could
Yeah,
bypass, consent is one way, and sound is another way that allows us to do that, where we don't have to
yeah,
use words and think. It allows us to go deeper.
yeah, yeah. I can see that really as interesting because I end up talking to people a lot about like trauma, and yeah, it's often like when people are struggling with that, it'll often be because they need to find a way of managing it that isn't the speaking because they've probably tried talk therapy and that hasn't worked. And I guess that's why for lots of people things like EMDR are really effective because you're not talking. And I guess for some people as well, it's like things like meditation and sound baths and then using certain scents. I can see it's in the same category where it's using a different part of your brain. So you're not having to talk in the same way.
Yeah, and go through loops. Yeah, and it's interesting because when people think of therapy, they don't really think of scent, right? They do think of EDMR, like you said, or other or sound baths, but they don't always think about scent. And that's where I come in
No.
to help, like remind people about that because it's like we forget about our sense of smell because it's so
Mhm.
um, seldomly used because in such a visual world, auditory world, we kind of forget about our sense of smell.
Yeah, and I guess you kind of take it for granted because it's just there all the time, unless you like make yourself think about it, right? Because it's just there.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Like we don't really realize what like we smell so many, like probably thousands of molecules in a day, but
Mhm.
we take it for granted. We don't know that and our brain is processing it and storing it or uh, removing it or doing what it needs to with the sensory input that it gets from our sense of smell and all of our other senses. So it is doing a lot of work and processing a lot. And we can work with that.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. And so then, because I know you said at the beginning, because you use all five senses, so then how do you incorporate the other senses into that?
In the experience, well, with the guided meditation, there's sound. Sometimes I have a drumming sound that I use that helps turn off the brain, the thinking mind. And then with the sense of smell, yeah, there's scent. We smell a lot of different things. And touch and coming back to the moment.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's like just touching our skin can help. And sometimes I do exercises with clients where we do just like an anointing ritual where we anoint our bodies with the oil and really integrate the scent
Mhm.
into our bodies. And that helps really come back to your bodies. And like, even just touching your hands, massaging the bone behind your ears, which helps with the nervous system. Uh, yeah, like, just coming back to our bodies using scent, you can apply body oils. I create body oils for, my clients as well. It helps, like, I love anointing rituals, which, like, scent sort of activates, like an intention of what we want, whether it's, like, a ritual, maybe it's just a bedtime routine, maybe it's, like, a manifestation routine, maybe it's a holiday or a celebration or transition that someone is going through, and so I love to have oils and sort of bring them back into the body. And with taste, well, it's more about, I think, like, yeah, taste is a difficult one. I don't usually eat while I'm working, but in my classes or when I teach or when I take clients, I will have some chocolates or some fruit.
Mhm.
Um And that's just a way just to because it's a really good experience to activate all the senses, even though it doesn't may not have nothing to do with what we're working on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way that I would activate all of the senses at once.
When I was back in the day, I used to work in bars, and I worked in this like quite fancy one. And we had someone like a wine person come to talk to us about the wine list, and they did that. And I remember they brought different food, and then they would have us smell it, and then eat something, and then smell it again, and it
Mm.
changed what you could smell. It was really interesting. Just to I'd completely forgotten that until you said that, but it was really interesting. You'd have some cheese, and then you could smell different things as well as
Yeah, that is so true. Like, even, yeah, with the drinks too, like, they'll sort of change your perception of what you're eating. Well, they'll make something even, either saltier or less sweet or more sweet depending on what you're eating and smelling. And also it's interesting because, like, when you smell certain things, you sometimes crave certain things to eat.
yeah,
So there's, like, this pairing that happens that your brain automatically, craves.
yeah, really interesting. The other thing I was thinking when you were saying about that was my when I had my baby, a friend of mine sent me. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like a spray for bedtime, and then
Mm.
that I'd put on the pillow, and it was really interesting because I'd never used something like that, and I don't think I'd have bought it for myself, but it was so nice when I was
Yeah.
so tired to like have that kind of bedtime routine that like sometimes especially so my baby had colic, so she didn't sleep very well. She cried a lot. So I'd often like the time by the time I got her to sleep, I'd be like super stressed out, and having that like sort of very short little routine before I just tried to like pass out was really helpful of like transitioning to kind of bedtime.
I love that. That's probably so healing for your nervous system to do that and to have that, because also, like, our bodies like repetition, and scent could be used as something that you spray the spray, your body knows, "Oh, yeah, okay, we're going into transitioning into bedtime now." And it helps babies also, they respond to smells, and especially all natural smells, like, not synthetics.
Yeah, I think it was lavender and something. So it was that kind of real like yeah, calming
Lovely.
stuff. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm normally like takes me quite a long time to like wind down from the day. So the beginning of parenthood I found quite difficult because you just don't have time for that like half an hour to wind down because if you know you're only gonna get 4 or 5 hours of sleep, you can't waste half an hour of it like meditating and winding down. It's gotta be like and that was almost like a shortcut.
Yeah, oh my god, I'm all about shortcuts. I have 2 boys myself, and I that's something they don't tell you when you have kids, that you just, like, won't have time for yourself,
Yeah.
and you have to make it the time, and I'm like, "Well, how am I supposed to do that? Because I'm doing a million things at once, and then my children are screaming at me. So how am I supposed to regulate my nervous system? How am I supposed to take a break?" So I'm all about hacks and finding ways to connect to the senses even when you're with your kids or they're sleeping, and you find, like, that those tiny little micro moments.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
3 and 5.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're similar. Yeah, so mine's too, and it's that. Yeah, because I think I'm probably just at the beginning of trying to help her like learn how to regulate emotions, and it is really interesting how much the environment helps or hinders that.
Yeah, totally. Because I'm a perfumer, I have found that when I take my kids outside, they're different kids, and we'll go and I'll even have them smell leaves. Like we'll have them smell different leaves or flowers, and like
Mhm.
bring them back into nature, and their tantrums go away. They just become like normal kids, not crazy screaming kids that want to press my buttons every second of the day.
Yeah. Oh, I love that idea of having them because we do a lot of like when we walk, picking stuff up and looking at it. But it's such a good idea to like as a way of trying to help identify different things and looking at them by doing it by smell as well as by the look of it.
Yeah, like I incorporate my sense of smell in a lot of things, and with kids, it's really fun. Also, it's really fun once your kid, has language, um, to be able to ask them like, "What does it smell like to you?" And they'll like say the funniest things sometimes, and for me, I just get a kick out of it, and it's a game I play. I'll have my son smell a Lego, or I'll have him smell like a croissant with ham or something like, and or just random things, not even food, and just hearing what his description words are so much fun. They make me laugh every time.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I'm definitely going to start trying that because yeah, because I'm really big on all these things of like trying to. So I went to kids yoga recently, and it was really interesting. She was saying like you, it was so cool. So they do the poses, and it's all a story. So it's like the warrior went up a mountain, so you're kind of doing them. But mainly, she said like what it's good with young kids is helping them to learn to regulate their breathing. And one of the things that she had was those those like pinwheels, paper pinwheels, and they were
Mm,
she was like, they can, if you try and tell them to slow down their breathing, they don't understand what you're saying. Whereas if you get them to blow on a pinwheel, they're doing the calming breathing without realizing. And so it's like helping creative ways for them to learn these nervous system regulation tools in a way that is accessible to a 3-year old.
yeah, yeah, it's like regulating through play,
Yeah.
which is good for 3-year-olds and almost 40-year-olds, which is almost me. So I like for everyone, I love that. I love that pinwheel idea. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try that as well.
Fun. And I can see with smell, it can be the same thing because once you figure out the kind of smells they like or don't like and what kind of grounds them, you can start putting that into like I don't know what goes in their bubble bath or what in the evening or what goes in their shampoo or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, like my son, he's 5 now, and he's really into smell too just because he watches me,
Yeah.
and so his next thing is like he's like, "Mom, I want you to make me a Darth Vader smell," and I
Okay.
think he just, like, wants to smell like Darth Vader, and I love the creative challenge of, like, well, what can Darth Vader smell like?
That's so cool. And it's such a good way for them to access their imagination as well.
Yeah, it really is. It's just, like, activating another portal of imagination that we don't necessarily use with our sense of smell.
I love how kids like sometimes like give you like an angle on something that you've probably not thought about and then that'll probably start translating into your work in other ways.
Yes. Oh my god, my children are my greatest teachers. They inspire me, they trigger me, they motivate me and inspire me.
And it's the thing I always say, you think you've like something you think you've healed, and then they just find a way to let you, and you're like, oh, not as healed as I thought I was in that area.
Absolutely, and I think that's their main role in life.
So great. So, when, what can people do like in their houses, like at home, to like, or at work, I guess, or in their day to day life to kind of use scent for their like emotional regulation?
I love that. I love that question. So I think one thing is like beginning with intention. Thinking about like how do you want to feel when you walk into your home or in a specific room in your house. And thinking about, like, with that intention, like, what pops into your mind. Like, I almost don't even really use aromatherapy because I like it to be subjective of, like, what does it make me feel?
Yeah.
Like, not what a book tells me that something should make you feel.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I could what I could what I really enjoy doing is, like, blending, Palo Santo with some vetiver and some orange.
Hmm.
3 different essential oils, it's really simple. You could put them in, like you could put them on a rock. You can take a rock and just, like, spray the put the oils in there and sort of just, like, stays on the any kind of, like, organic surface.
Hmm.
If you're with kids, you go outside, you could find a rock, maybe a rock that has, like, little crevices in it that can kind of, like where the oils can kind of get stuck in.
Hmm.
Put that in a room and put some essential oils and blend it, like, your own way. You put 10 drops, and you could reapply it and change it over time, as, like, it dissipates, but it's just a nice way to have some scent on a, like, organic surface. That's intentional to, like, how you want the space to feel. Another way is, I mean, I love flowers. I love buying myself flowers. I love when people buy me flowers. So having that in the home, I feel, or if it's not flowers, it could also be like certain stems or leaves that have scent, like eucalyptus and white sage,
Hmm.
um, rosemary, things like that. Growing herbs, like, having even if you don't have a outdoor space or you don't have a patio or a backyard, just having, like, a tiny little herb garden in the kitchen where you have a
Hmm.
little bit of sunlight, and sometimes just smelling that you can take a leaf and kind of ground and, pinch in between your fingers and smell it. It's a really good way to anchor in, um, and, like, yeah, having diffusers or, um yeah, I'm all about, like, really quick ways of getting scent in the home, or using scent in a way that's, very accessible. Sometimes diffusers, you have to clean them
I know
and
it's
all
funny.
that.
I use my diffusers when I'm sick. So like you probably hear I live in Florida, and at this time of year, it's like a constant battle with the air because I'm just allergic to it. So I use mine loads at this time of year, but it's mainly with like peppermint and to just sort of try and make me sound less like it's December and I've got a really heavy cold. Apparently. But that's it is funny because that's the only time I really use those like in the air. Where the rest of the time, yeah, I feel like it's more things like flowers.
Yeah, like flowers, plants, leaves. I also love using body oil, like, after a shower, I use a scented body oil, and you can make your own. You just get, like, a carrier oil in a bottle, and you
Yeah,
put about 10 drops of an oil that you like, mix it up, and, like, apply it on your skin. Like, for me, that grounds me right away and just brings me
yeah.
back into my body. Um, I love doing that. I'm trying to think.
I like that 'cause
Candle.
it's a way to like almost set for the day. Like if you know you've woken up feeling like not great, you can probably have different ones that you know will like pep you up. Or if you've got like something that you're stressed out about and you know that something calms you down, you can almost like pre-make a few for yourself with like what's the zone today and what do I need to like help that.
Yeah, yeah, it's like having your own toolkit and you
Yeah.
get to make it yourself. It's really fun. Oh, and another way that I thought of is, like, you can make, like, sachets and put them in
Hmm.
your, like, linen closet or in your drawer so your clothes have a little bit of a hint of, like, that plant material.
Yeah.
Uh, or even putting it in the bath, so putting a couple of essential oils and some soap in the bath, like, helps, you could, like it just infuses the whole room,
Yeah.
um, with that smell and anchors into that moment.
Yeah, that's funny. That always reminds me of like my grandma. I guess in the UK there's like moths are really common, and they don't like lavender. So everyone used to put the like dried lavender in everything.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you could play with it because, like, if dried lavender reminds you of, like, sometimes an old home or an old, something that you don't wanna remember, like, you can play with it. You get sachets, you can put some sage, some rosemary, some sweetgrass in there, um, even some you can get some, resins like myrrh and frankincense and copaiba balsam and, put it in there, and it just has this, like, subtle scent, and what I love with all naturals is that it doesn't, like take up the whole room, and it's not
Yeah.
offensive, and it doesn't, like, really mess with, like, your hormones or overwhelm you too much that you kind of, like, lose your train of thought because of the smell is so intense. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like that because I think that actually deters, and, like, it's, like, offensive to our senses versus, like, actually helping.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I said at the beginning I've got quite a sensitive sense of smell, but what I also have is like really a lot of taste buds. I've got a really good, so I think it must be linked. But anyway, I've got like so that I think that's why when I was doing the wine thing, I could really um, do that quite well. But it means, yeah, when someone's wearing like one of those colognes that's very artificial and that like takes up your whole sense, like it like will change how I'm able to like interact with other stuff because it's so overwhelming to like all of my head senses.
Yeah, yeah, it almost, like, I don't know, like, I don't know, takes away certain senses because of the overwhelm and the intensity of it.
Yeah, I feel like it really like it's one of those things. I guess like when I used to live in London and I used to work in my corporate job, so you kind of would quite often meet like so I'm going to do a lot of stereotypes now, but like the kind of sales guys who wear like loads of cologne and you'd go somewhere and you'd be like networking and food, and I would find that it would be quite distracting, but then like I couldn't really taste food properly, or it's really interesting that it like is so those like artificial scents are very overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not a fan. I love natural smells because 'cause they're, like, more intimate, you kind of smell them in your little bubble, but they're not going to overwhelm or offend or,
And
um
they don't clash in the same way. So, like, if you were wearing one and your partner was wearing one, and they were like different and not necessarily complementary or whatever, they wouldn't like. It's not the same kind of clashing because they're like I don't know.
yeah, they're like with everything with molecules found in nature, they all kind of harmonize together in some
Yeah,
way. Whereas synthetic molecules can, like, I don't know, could be very, like, they could fight with each I don't know what's the word, but
yeah, they're like
they
reacting rather than like interacting or something. I'm sure there's a
yes.
proper scientific.
Yeah, I can't think of it right now, but yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It is interesting because I think this is something that I've kind of thought about a bit because, like I say, I do like scent, and then every now and again I'll see something that makes me think about it, but only in one way. And then, yeah, like I said at the beginning, when I saw like your profile and stuff, I was like, oh, I really am interested in this because of how like broad it can be.
Mm. Yeah, I love that, and I'm so glad that you see that in with kind of what the content that I put out because that's what I love is, like, showing that scent could be so beautiful and also has all of these different uses, and we could use it for healing and activating things and setting intentions and, yeah, there's just so many uses for scent, and I love nerding out about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm really grateful to you for nerding out about it with me because the kind of thing I'm really interested in, and I can definitely see it's the kind of thing that for a lot of people can be quite helpful for like figuring out ways to yeah calm their nervous system or set their mood for the day or like help with boosting whatever it is they need. Um, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. And if any of your listeners want to explore natural scent on their own, on my website, I have 4 different all natural perfumes that I released. I have 2 more in the making, so follow along for that. And then I do custom scent sessions on Zoom and in person, and I take you through the whole journey, and it is quite an experience. So if you want to sign up, go to my website or message me on Instagram.
I've seen on Instagram you've got like a couple of reels of doing it, and it looks so interesting. So I think I'll put the links, but because I feel like it's the kind of thing lots of people will be quite interested to try.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Yes.
you so much for your time.
Yeah,